Guys, like, comment, subscribe. Please don't forget to share this video at the end. This is a pretty good video. A very good video, I might add. Now, on to the topic. Ohio State versus Notre Dame in week 1 at the Horseshoe, aka Ohio State. Now, I've already picked Ohio State to win this game. However, anything's possible in today's college football world. And Notre Dame's not a bad team. They have a first-year head coach with Freeman there. Day is Ohio State's head coach. He doesn't have much experience either, but he has more than Coach Freeman does for Ohio State. Not Ohio State, Notre Dame. Reason number one, Notre Dame can win this game. Number one, the line of scrimmage. They're really strong up front on both sides of the ball. That was not exactly a weakness last year, but it's where players are real young and still having to develop throughout the year, for which the most part they played pretty well. But they were relatively inconsistent with FSU, Oklahoma State, and maybe in Cincinnati. The FSU game, they managed to win that game. But the other two games, they lost. Oklahoma State came back partially because, and it's not because Coach Freeman was there. I think even if Brian Kelly was there, they wouldn't have won that game anyway. So, yeah, but that's besides the point. I think this year they're going to be even better up front, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive line is going to be very strong, very aggressive. They're going to be very fast to the football. That's one reason why I think they have a chance to win this game. I think they'll be just about as strong, if not stronger, up front. Here's the thing. Do I think Ohio State's offensive line can block Notre Dame's defensive front? Yeah. Do I think they can do it consistently the whole game? No. Because Notre Dame has a really good pass rush. They did last year, and they were a younger defense. Now they're going to be a year older. They're more seasoned. They've had a whole offseason to recover and grow and get bigger and stronger and faster and all that good stuff. So I think Ohio State will have problems in that department. I think any team will with Notre Dame, Number two, C.J. Stroud, as much as a factor I think he will be in winning this game, he could be a factor that they lose this game. Now, by no means am I saying C.J. Stroud sucks, but let me say something about high-level quarterbacks in college football. Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields himself. All those quarterbacks had great first-year experience in the college football world. Or meaningful. Fields going to Georgia, then he went to Ohio State to really be the starter, to really shine. And then the following year, they all had a hard time. Not because they suck, but because defenses figured them out and anticipate their moves that they had as a freshman or a second-year guy who hadn't played much the year before. And then when the same teams play them again, they're not as successful. Trevor Lawrence, especially him, he threw a lot of picks in his second year. He was still very explosive, but that's just the way he plays. Much like C.J. Stroud, I expect that of him to be very explosive. But I expect him to have more picks this year. I expect him to have more incomplete passes, overthrown balls like he did last year, which weren't often, given his credit. Early in the year it was, but he got better at that, So that may be a problem against Notre Dame. Because, again, Notre Dame's athletes aren't quite at the level of Ohio State, but I think they're good enough if they can force some turnovers, which I think they will in this game. Number three, the tight end. Mr. Mayer, the tight end from Notre Dame, really good at catching the football. He doesn't just catch the football really well. He makes good blocks. So Notre Dame's going to be, which brings me to number four, they're going to run the football very well. They ran the football pretty good last year, with the exception of FSU, Cincinnati, of course, and Oklahoma State. They couldn't block them very well when it came to running the football. But they ran the football pretty well on everybody else. I think this time they get it done. I know that everybody's saying Ohio State's defense is supposed to be good. Oh, I'm not saying it's not, necessarily. But I will say I need to see it before I believe it. Because that's one defense that's been on the decline the last few years. So for anybody to say that they're going to be dominant in that game in week 1, okay. I think they're going to have to run the football well, which they usually do. Again, that offensive line is coming back. They got good running backs, and I think that they'll make possible. I don't think they're going to bust free and get 10, 15 yards every carry, but I think they'll do more than enough to wear down Ohio State's defensive front to control the line of scrimmage and to use their quarterback play. I know their quarterback from last year is gone. I forgot his name, but he's the guy that transferred from Wisconsin. He had some good plays last year, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. Notre Dame's always going to have players. What's the other reason? Receivers. Receiving core. I know Ohio State probably has the better receiving core. But that's not a knock against Notre Dame. Notre Dame always has good receivers. So whoever the quarterback I think it's going to be, you're going to have good receivers to throw to that are reliable, that are going to make plays and do good. And again, the running backs can catch the football too. As we saw in the Oklahoma State game, among other games, they can catch the football very well also. And number six or seven, physicality. Notre Dame is a very, very physical football team. Even when in the past, when they played teams with superior talent such as Clemson and Alabama, they still, I wouldn't say gave those teams a hard time, but those teams didn't just get to do what they wanted to do for all 4 quarters. Remember back in the Rose Bowl, Alabama was up 21-7 at one point. We thought they were going to put 40, 50 points on them. They ended up putting only 10 more points. And I emphasize only 10 because once both teams kind of settled down, Alabama was having a harder time getting points in that game. They had to pull away late in that game. Not that they weren't the better team or it was close, obviously not on the scoreboard, but you get what I mean. It's going to be a very physical football game. And when you're playing a team that's physical like Notre Dame, you're going to have problems. I don't care how good you are, you know. And again, the biggest question mark for me is Ohio State's defense. Again, they say it's going to be better. I need to see it. And while throughout the year, I think it's a chance they'll do better, I don't think they can do any worse than what they did last year in big game moments. But if you're telling me in week one you're going to dominate Notre Dame and do what you want to do with them like that, and your defense is going to be great like that, I don't think so. I think your defense will still have holes, not because they suck necessarily, but just because, you know, you have a team like Notre Dame who has good athletes who's capable of winning a big game like that in the first game with nothing to lose technically. And Ohio State's probably going to be the number 1 or number 2 team in the country to start this year. So anything's possible, you know, and there you go. Those are my reasons that Notre Dame could pull this off again, forcing turnovers with the interceptions off of C.J. Stroud. I think the defensive game plan really good for him. Like all good quarterbacks have a good first year, they have a hard second year. I think this will be the case for C.J. Stroud. Not because he sucks or I don't think he's very good. That's just the way it is for a lot of the quarterbacks, unless your name's Lamar Jackson and you play against the ACC defenses. Physicality, running game for Notre Dame, the line of scrimmage, all the ingredients of a possible upset. Do I think they win this game? No. Ryan Day's had more experience than Coach Freeman has had. But he hasn't been in college football very long either. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.